Hey everybody, Kevin. It's a dark and gloomy, rainy day here in Maine. Sitting here in my old 1986 Chevy Short Body, and I think two things in my life, with multiple others, but two of my most important things in my life is this old pickup and who sits in that car seat right there. I want to try to make it really quick, but I tend to ramble. I usually tend to aim towards my CMT, my neuropathy issues, and how that affects me and affects my life and fatherhood. But one of the underlying demons that I've always struggled with is depression, and I've had depression as far back as I can remember. But the depression definitely became uncontrollable, I guess I could say, way beyond anything that I could manage when the disability issues started coming to the front. And I've started writing a book about myself. It's not necessarily a self-help. I think I'm going to call it more of a self-understanding, because maybe I don't help anybody, but I understand, and I love to be able to lend an ear or lend a shoulder to people that are in the same situations that I'm in. But during my beginning of the book, a topic came up about depression, and it's so much easier to write than it is to talk about things. But I found myself staying up all night thinking about the depression and about that certain circumstance and situation, and I said, you really need to. I don't care if I have 5 followers or 500. If one person sees this video and struggles with the same things that I do with depression, and you don't have to be disabled, but and they listen and they maybe hear me, come through to them, maybe they could have a change of heart. Maybe I could help one person, and it's definitely worth 30 minutes out of my day to do that. So having said that, the topic was when I was diagnosed with Charcot-Marie tooth. It's 3.5, almost 4 years ago now. I was sitting at my doctor's office, and she went over my EMGs, and we knew that I'd had it in my calves and my feet, but it was just kind of an unwritten diagnosis, and I lived with it. But I had some issues with my forearms and my hands, and they were exactly the same as my calves and my feet. So it was the realization that it was spreading into my tools, and my hands are such a big deal to me. And as she's going through all this, telling me, healthy lifestyles, changing your lifestyle, possibly even a career change at the time, all mumbled together. I heard, you now have what your mother has, but you actually have it worse, with it being in your arms and hands, and she probably talked for 10 minutes. I don't know, but towards the end of it, she said that there must be a million things going through your head. Nope, there wasn't a million things going through my head. It was just one thing going through my head, and that was my boy at the time. He was about 6 months old, and nothing mattered. No change of careers, no pain for the rest of your life, no progressively getting worse the rest of your life. Didn't matter. All that mattered was that word hereditary and the chance that I put my boy into the same shoes that I'm in, and that he might end up with some form of neuropathy. So on the way home, I lived 57 miles from the office, my doctor's office. And with, obviously, depression had just completely encapsulated me. I'm a horrible father. I made the wrong decision to have kids. First you pray that your son isn't going to get neuropathy or the demons that you have, and then you try to pray that if he doesn't, that you can be upright to be a father to him. And no matter, I couldn't find any sunshine. I couldn't find any positive out of it. But one thing that, looking back, I caught myself doing was I really grasp with everything I can onto keeping one bulb lit in my head. If there's 1,000 light bulbs, I just make sure that I try to keep one light going, because if I let them all go out, you'd probably read about me in the local newspaper. What I ended up doing was I thought of every possible way to not make it home. And I thought of pills, I thought of a firearm, I even engineered in my head how I would hit a utility pole so the airbags in my truck at the time wouldn't save me. But what I did do, and what I realized I did, was every time I thought of a way to not make it home, I stored it and I thought of another way. And I didn't fight the demon. And because the demon is going to win. And the only way you can control him is to do just that, almost just kind of lead it. It's like if you have a draft horse by the reins, you're not going to win that tug of war, but you can coax it. You can kind of manipulate it a little bit. And every time I'd think of a way to not make it home, I would just store it and I'd think of another way. And I just kept thinking of ways to not make it home. And what happens is I realize now that it's just like when your little one falls asleep on a 2-hour ride. He goes to sleep and then he wakes up and you're there. And the more I thought, and I just kept going and going, and I bet I thought of 30 ways to not make it home. But what it did was, an hour later, I was backing into my driveway. And that manipulating it a little bit got me home. And I'm not going to tell you that everything gets better, and when I got home the sun was shining and life was grand, but I was home. And whether home is your home or a friend's house or even work or a place that you feel secure, but there's somebody there that and you don't even need to talk to them. You can put on You can put on your go to work face and not say a word, but they're there. And when you can get yourself to a spot where you're home, there's somebody there that they don't realize it, but they're preventing you from shutting off your last light bulb. So like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that life is going to be grand and it will get better. Mine has, but it didn't the next day. And I still struggle with it. I still watch my boy like a hawk, hoping that, you know, fingers crossed, and if I could move my toes, I'd cross my toes that he doesn't have CMT. But what I hope maybe I can do is, when you're at the absolute bottom of the barrel, you've got to just get off the bottom. Don't worry about getting out of the barrel. Don't worry about getting halfway out of the barrel. Don't even worry about getting your head out of water. Get off the bottom of the barrel. And one thing that I've realized is, if I can just get myself home, if I could just get myself to my dad's garage or my mom's house or my home, if I can get to my son, or if I get to my stepdaughter, or if I get to a friend, or you're off the bottom. You're off the bottom. The demon can't beat both of you. And I don't care if you talk about your hobbies or you talk about depression and break down on them. You're off the bottom. So you're gonna have your thoughts. You're gonna have your struggles. It's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be enjoyable. And more often than not, you just cave in to all of it. But if you can just keep enough composure and enough light on to, no matter how bad of thoughts you're thinking and no matter how bad the depression has a hold of you, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward is your first step. And if you're lucky, you know, maybe you'll never go back there. If you're unfortunate enough that you keep going back there, maybe it will just keep you off the bottom until life, you know, life does hand something your way, gives you a reason to go. But if I didn't make it home, if I didn't make it home 3.5 years ago, I would not be sitting in an old 1986 Chevy pickup that I absolutely adore, with a car seat, and in the background on my lawn, my 4-year-old with his red Chevy Power Wheels pickup that he thinks looks just like his dad's. So I know everybody's life is different, but when you're going to bottom, only worry about getting off bottom. Don't worry about anything else. Just get off bottom. And the best way I've found to get off bottom is to make it home. Just make it home. I love you guys.